Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Timmy. We, of course, talk about horror movies every week, and this week's film is one that I was actually looking forward to. This is called The Monster, and it comes from the same director as The Strangers, which is a movie I really enjoyed that came out in 2008. This is a new movie that's just sort of went straight to VOD this year. The director's name is Brian Bertino, and it's about a mother and daughter who are in a car accident. The car breaks down after they hit a wolf, and they're stranded late at night in a rain stormy night, I should say. And there is a monster in the woods coming to attack them. So that's the general gist of it. We will start spoiler free, and we will warn you of spoilers before we go into them halfway through. So, Tim.
Yeah.
Did you like The Monster?
I have a feeling like this is going to be one of those episodes where we strongly disagree, but I kind of didn't like it. For me, I'm kind of skirting the edge between not really liking it and thinking it's like, okay.
You're correct. We're going to disagree on this one. I happen to quite like this.
Because you loved it.
Well, I don't know if I'd say I'd loved it, but I really liked it.
Okay. All right.
Look at you, so
No, it's like sometimes I can just tell, like, going in, I'd be like, I'll be watching, I'm like, I'm not really digging this, but I know Peter's gonna love it. I know everything I say he's gonna be like disagree, like, but yeah, I can get into it.
Oh, right, okay, you started bold. We started bold with this one. Jesus Christ. Oh, this is Halloween 4 all over again.
Oh my.
No, I like this a lot. I think the basic premise of it just appeals to me quite a bit. You know, I like bottle stories where it's all set in one location. Yeah. Another type of story that I really like is when characters are in like this one kind of safe place, but everything outside of that safe place is dangerous. You know, and in this case, it's the car, and like as soon as they're outside, they're in danger. You know.
Yeah.
I love that kind of thing.
I will say I did like that. I also like, in general, like the setting. Like I like a middle of the woods story. And I thought it looked great. Like the, I don't know what your fancy film school term would be, cinematography.
Yeah, see, you knew the word, Tim. You knew the word. Tim, I feel like you put yourself down and you assume you don't know something, and then you'll say it anyway. You got to have confidence in yourself, Tim.
Oh, that train sailed a long time ago.
Tim. Okay, before we go any further, I have to explain to Tim the difference between a train and a boat. Oh, jeez.
But no, I thought it looked really good. And yeah, like I did like the setting. I'll kind of say one of my big problems with it, which and I think I know the exact counter you're gonna have for it, but I thought it really dragged for the first like 30-40 minutes for me, which I think you're gonna say that, oh no, that's character building and the building up the tension. And
I love how you've come in here not liking the movie, but you've already sat and thought about everything I'm going to say to like counter argument with you. Counter argument, that's not a phrase.
I have a safeguard. If for some reason the call drops, I can continue the episode without you.
Okay, you're right to an extent. I think I don't think the opening 40 minutes drags. I actually thought the two characters were interesting enough. I thought their relationship was unique. You know, not that I've not seen a strong kid and a wreck of a parent in like a movie before. We've seen that before. Don't get me wrong. That's not unique, but
so I was a little happy because at first I thought they were gonna do the kind of the Ring relationship where it's like, oh, the kid's so mature and the mother can't get it together, which I thought they were going for that at first, but then it's not really. It doesn't end up being like that.
Well, yeah, because the difference in The Ring is that Naomi Watts' character is basically still a well enough put together adult, whereas here like the mother's like a complete train wreck and she's an alcoholic, and
and it's like it is an interesting relationship, and to me I felt like it was two different movies that I didn't think like meshed that well together. Like if it was
Oh, I disagree with that. Oh, we just just you wait, Tim.
yeah, no, I thought like, I was like, oh, if I was watching like a drama or something about, this mother and daughter relationship, like fine, but I don't know, I don't
See,
need it in this monster movie.
no, see, that's where you're. That's the wrong type of thinking to go into this, Timmy, because I feel like
Okay.
I applaud this for actually
Okay.
taking the time to give the characters this much like depth, this much story. Because let's be honest, in most monster movies, the characters are, oh, this is a scientist and this is that, and that's kind of all that defines them. They're just there to be fodder,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. Whereas here, the whole thing is really about their relationship, and I'll wait until spoilers before I really get into the connections with the monster and what it represents and all the rest of it. But there's like a purpose to it. It's not just like a monster movie where they wanted to have the creepy scenes and this is just, oh, we need some character fodder. Like if it's all of it's about them.
I definitely understand that, and like I see how like the flashbacks were very purposefully done to coincide with specific points between the night. So I definitely get what they were going for, and it was well done. Like I'm not gonna say that it was bad, but it just didn't like work for me. I guess it just
Okay.
wasn't the type of thing I typically enjoy.
I was really into this right from the get go. It felt like I was in a, a confident director's hands, if that makes any sense. Like,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
like right from the start, the way it built up the opening scenes where Lizzie, who's the girl, gets up and starts like trying to wake up her mom and cleans up the house. Like right from the start, the way it was being told without any dialogue, I was like immediately drawn in. Like I'm discovering who these characters are. And often in horror movies, not all of them, some great ones have good characters, but often in a lot of them, the characters are just kind of there for the horror to happen to them, rather than the story really being about them. You don't watch, even the best horror movie of all time, Halloween. You don't watch that and go, oh, this is about Laurie Strode's arc. This is about her discovering herself. And I mean, there's some elements.
Becoming the best babysitter she can be.
Like, there's some elements in there, of course, for her character, and that is growth and her becoming brave. Don't get me wrong, there is some of that in there, but it's not really the core focus of the movie. Whereas here, it is. It's about those two characters. It's about them, their relationship, and how they interact with each other. But I don't want to get into more of that until we get to spoilers. So let's just focus on the broader aspects. I thought the acting was very good. I thought the little girl in particular was very convincing.
Definitely. Yeah, she wasn't. I feel like I often get pretty annoyed by kids in horror movies. I think you were kind of alluding to it earlier. Usually they're kind of one note, maybe like pretty whiny or annoying. But no, she actually felt real and had depth to her. And
She had layers. She had, okay, she steps up and is a bit more of an adult than most kids her age should be because of the way her mum is. But you buy that she would have kind of just learned to do that because of the way her mum is. And at the same
it's
time,
a more realistic way than like Save the Ring or something where it's like an 8-year-old wearing a suit and just like, come on, like acting like they're Fraser Crane or something.
to salads and scrambled eggs. That's what he wants for breakfast. But no, but sometimes it's different, and she does sort of break down as a kid and like hugs her teddy bear. Like you get like both sides to it. She has multiple facets, which is good. I love that the monster is mostly kept out of sight, but when you do see him, he is mostly practical effects, which I was pleasantly surprised. See, when I seen his head and he was not CG, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, I actually like the design of the monster, and again, I was a little worried with the first couple of scenes with him. I thought like, okay, is this gonna be one of those things where like you never really see him, or when you do see him, it's like a really shaky, quick, fast cuts or something? But you actually do get like pretty good shots of him.
Yeah, as the movie goes on and as we get into the third act, and he's more of a direct in your face presence.
Yeah.
You do see his face, you see what his body shape's like, you see all that stuff, and it is in like nice wide shots where you can fully take him in, and it's not quick shaky cuts and all that. That's the other thing, is I don't think there's really any cheap jump scares or anything like that either. Everything.
Oh yeah.
And probably the thing that makes the movie work the most beyond anything else is how the suspense is handled. Like as soon as they break down, every single shot of like them sitting in the rain, of like even when the tow truck arrives and you just see the headlights coming out in the distance, because it's just, it's nothing but darkness, as far as I can see, but you just see these headlights come in, and the rain gives it this sense of atmosphere, and it's none of it's necessarily like, oh wow, he's breaking new, barriers here. Like, this is like,
Right.
it's reliable horror stuff, but it's all used very well by a director who I think, it's funny that you mentioned the first 40 minutes or whatever was slow for you, because I actually think the pacing in this movie is handled very well. I thought he did a good job of mixing it up. Well, because there's a long stretch in the middle where there's a lot of like slow tension building, where like, where is he? Is he going to show up? That kind of thing. And I thought just when that might have started to get too much, it started to intercut between like two timelines a little bit, and it started to shake up the way the movie was presented. And I thought that was done at the exact right time to keep it feeling fresh.
I don't know, for me, and maybe it's just because I don't know, have like a short attention span or something,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
but it just felt like a lot longer for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because like that's just such a weird thing. Is I don't think you were bored for the first chunk of it or whatever. Not to put words. You never said bored.
Yeah.
I shouldn't put words in your mouth. But you know what I mean? Like, what you said about the first.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say it wasn't the type of dragging where I'm looking at my watch and kind of being like, all right, let's get get this over with. But and maybe I should also say too that we watched the trailer for this like a little bit ago, and we're really I think we both were really excited because it was just a heck of a trailer. It looked really good, and like these like smaller independent horror movies of the last couple of years have ended up becoming like pretty good, like nice little surprises, and end up being some of like my favorite movies of the year. So I was kind of expecting this to be like, oh, like, is this gonna be the next like It Follows or The Witch or something where I'm gonna this I didn't really know much about it and it came out of nowhere and I fell in love with it. So maybe it's just kind of my anticipation and that sort of thing. But like, no, it is still engrossing, but it I guess for me, if you're waiting for a monster to show up, it's leaving you a little bit.
See, I this is my completely different philosophy in monster movies, though, is that I don't necessarily want it to show up too soon. Like, I want it to draw out and whatever. But the point I was getting at, though, is I don't think the first chunk of the movie that for you dragged is because the pacing is bad or because.
Oh yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that.
It's not a fault of the filmmaking. It's just. You're here for a monster movie, and it's taking its time to build its characters, which maybe you weren't expecting, maybe you're just not into, whatever. But
yeah, I think it's more of a personal taste issue as opposed to any fault of the film. Because again, like I thought it looked great. Like you said, like the director knew what he was doing. He's pacing it and composing the scenes well, and like the actors are good and everything. So it's not a case where I can be like, oh, this movie sucked. It's just like for me, maybe wasn't exactly what I was hoping for or in the mood for at that time.
Well, I think we're going to go into spoilers. By all means, folks, I recommend checking it out if that's not clear. Obviously, Tim's not as hot on it, but I don't think he would discourage you from watching it either. So
yeah, I'd still say check it out.
Yeah, so we're going to go into spoilers. So full spoilers from this point on for The Monster. And yeah, for me, like, I thought their relationship was, because really early on, when you see like the flashbacks of the mum like trying not to be an alcoholic anymore, but then giving in, and the daughter like looking after her, and then there's a point where they're screaming at each other when she's supposed to take her to the play that she's in, the school play, and Kathy's like screaming at Lizzie, saying I hate you, and she's saying I hate you back, and then they start swearing at each other, and I got to the point where I'm like, wait, is the monster the mum? Is that what is that what this movie's about? Because the mother is possibly one of the worst mothers on the planet right now. This is awful. She's awful to her kid. But sadly in a very realistic way. Like none of it rings as like.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like an over the top like, her trying to sell her kid for lottery tickets or something. Like it's not like it's not like comedically crazy. It's like it is real, and I think the big thing is the flashback with the slap is kind of like, ooh.
Yeah, and that's quite late on in the movie when she hits her. When you see this flashback of her hitting her, and you like, and that's the point where I'm thinking, okay, the title of the monster does kind of apply to her as well. This is kind of what the movie's really about. And because you obviously, when people have drinking problems and drug problems, you often hear people talk about them battling their own demons.
Yeah.
So for me, like, the monster is kind of like a you know a corporealization of her actual demons, that like her abusive nature, not even abusive, I mean, she has hit her once, but like just her relationship with her daughter, like the way that she ultimately, even when she tries, she's going to like fail and leave her behind. Like, it's going to eventually take them apart, and it does. Like, Kathy does eventually die.
She kills a wolf.
She didn't kill a wolf.
Well, if the monster is her, I'm saying.
Oh, right. Okay, I'm not literally saying the monsters are. Do you know what I mean though? Like, I'm just
Yeah.
The monster's this personification of like the relationship in a weird way, and I like that. I like that a lot because it kind of takes you through these emotions, because you see in the flashbacks that there's times when they're a bit closer and Lizzie is trying to help her mom and she's doing everything she can, and there's times when it's a little bit better and she's trying, and then there's times when it completely breaks apart. And we kind of go through this throughout the whole, like, the night on the road with the monster. We see her try to comfort her, we then see her tell her, don't be scared, don't be weird, like, stop it. We see her get angry.
Yeah.
We see it go through the motions, and it's all about when it comes to the right down to it, is that Kathy essentially sacrifices herself to save her daughter. And I think what I like most about the relationship though is that you do really feel it right from the start. Like, see when they first break down and Lizzie calls her dad and like tells her, "Oh, we're in an accident," and so on, and you just hear her side of the conversation, but we're following Kathy around the car, and we hear her say, "No, she wasn't. No, she's fine." Like, you can tell the dad's asking if she was drinking. You can tell, like, she's a wreck. Everyone knows she's a wreck, and this is,
Yeah.
you feel it the entire time. I think it's very good characterization. It gets across all those points throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. I don't have much to add. That's pretty spot on.
Cool. So obviously the movie plays out, and we have Tyrell from Battlestar Galactica, who's the mechanic in the tow truck.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've watched that show, but I know the actor from that.
I watched a couple of episodes, like the first season. It was good, but just one of the things I never got around to watching more.
Yeah, but last time, and he loses an arm, and then the ambulance shows up. Which, by the way, I love that eventually the monster just breaks into the car.
Yeah, you think that that's like kind of their safe space, where it's like, at the very least, like, we have this little place to retreat and plan. And
yeah, but eventually it breaks that boundary. But that's just as the ambulance shows up, and then like I thought that was a really fun way of doing that, because like they're in more danger, but the ambulance is there, so it throws a wrench in it so that it doesn't just play. Like, cause if the ambulance didn't show up, she'd just be dead. Like, it'd be the end of the movie, basically.
Yeah, and even and you kind of, or at least for me, like, I had like a little bit of a glimmer of hope, like when the ambulance shows up, like, okay, maybe, maybe they're gonna get out of here, maybe they'll like follow them or something, or, but it's pretty quickly, like disposes of topples the car.
Yeah, the monster is constantly escalating his attacks, where like at this point he doesn't even give them like 5 minutes rest before he's attacking again. Like,
it's almost like a monster in like a video game, like it's kind of like hounding you and kind of getting like stronger and stronger, or more adventurous.
Yeah,
as it goes on.
Yeah, I did like that. I like that all the characters who show up aren't stupid. Like, they don't die because they're idiots or anything like that.
Yeah. There's no typical like horror, like at no point you're really like screaming at the screen, like going like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Or everyone's like acts pretty rationally.
Actually, it's funny because eventually Lizzie is on her own. The last like 10-15 minutes she's on her own in the ambulance, and she makes a flamethrower out of like a spray can and a lighter and actually kills the monster. Like, she fights the demons and wins, which is something her mother couldn't do.
Now, do you think though that the monsters seem to like catch fire pretty quickly? Like, I mean, I'm no flame expert, but like, I don't know, like, like I don't know what she was using as a spray.
I don't know,
but she has like
a spray that's be flammable.
some type of flammable spray, and then a lighter, which I've seen those kind of like those fireball things. It kind of seems like just kind of like blows in your face or whatever, but it seems like it like instantly engulfed like the creature. I don't know.
I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, we have no idea, because the creature has this really cool little thing where it has like a cape almost, and I don't know if that is fabric, then that would catch fire like quicker than his body would.
True. Yeah, it might be flammable.
Yeah. So no, I mean, that didn't bother me. I just like that she could beat the monster. She beat the demons when her mother couldn't, and it's kind of like it goes back to earlier on in the movie, like in one of the flashbacks after like the hitting scene, and we see like the mother try to apologize and say that you'll be so much better than me. You will be a better person than I am. And that was kind of that in a very literal, like, over the top way where she fights the monster and gets torn to shreds, but her daughter fights him off and actually wins, and lives to see daylight. So, no.
Yeah. Oh boy, it's I wonder if like after all this, like once she grows up, if she'll kind of like look back on it and like realize all that stuff, like, oh yeah, like that was a pretty good metaphor for what was happening at the time.
Timmy. I really liked the movie. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I it's probably again another one where I sound like I'm being maybe a little overly harsh, but it's like,
sound like a whiny little bitch. You mean? Yeah.
Oh well, okay.
You've said much worse to me on this show, Timmy. Don't you even act surprised?
I do not recall.
The hypocrisy is strong with you, Timothy. Very strong.
But yeah, like I'm kind of like right between the line of like, again, not saying it's bad, but just being like, oh, like all right, that's okay, and but just between being okay and kind of not really digging it that much. But
all right,
I did like all the monster stuff when it did start. That was definitely my jam.
Okay. I will also say, just to sort of reiterate this whole point home of the demons and all that, the little speech, the little monologue that Lizzie has at the start and the end of the movie, and she talks about some monsters you see and some you can't. Obviously, the demons and her mother are the ones you can't see, and then this literal movie monster is the one you can't, the idea that there is, monsters that you can't see. So I really appreciated that. I thought it was a nice thematic touch. And I think that's what I like about this most of all, is that it does feel like it has like a point. Even if you don't like the point, it has like a cohesive whole that he's built to over the course of the movie.
True. Yeah, I'll give him props for that.
So, as she finishes a little speech, it's daylight and it cuts to the title. That's when the first time we see the title of the movie is at the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's the monster. I really enjoyed it.
And I will say I did like I forget if I mentioned it, but I did like the design of the monster. I thought he looked cool.
Yeah, you did say that, but always worth reiterating.
Well, yeah. I like the first kind of attack when he's attacking the tow truck guy, Jesse, and kind of you just kind of he's like under the car for like actually like a long while, and then you kind of just see him being like dragged off, and then like you said, first they you see his arm fly on like the hood of the car.
It almost feels like the scene from Jurassic Park. The goat's leg. Yeah.
Yeah, like in general too, just because like the rain's beating down really well. Which by the end of the movie, it stops raining.
Again, she survived the night. It's out into the daylight. Actually, just to go back to the whole setup of the two, like, because obviously once the tow truck's there, the tow truck is like maybe 20 feet away from the car or whatever. And I love the idea that the Jesse takes the bags and puts them in his truck, because he's eventually going to drive them when the ambulance gets here and whatever. And I love that their phone's in that bag, so it becomes this. It's like almost like this no man's land between the two cars.
Oh yeah.
And that scene where Lizzie goes outside, because of course Kathy makes Lizzie do it. And like travel like to the other car, and it's like the doors locked. Like that entire thing was very tense, and that's what I really like about these kind of setups. This idea of like the safe space. Even at this point, the characters don't even know there's a monster, so they're not aware of the danger. But I am, and I'm aware of like this no man's land territory. So,
Pete, you should have said something.
How awful of me. Also, I will say that I very quickly related to Lizzie because she's
Oh
like,
God.
well, no, I did because she tells her mother not to smoke in the car, and I'm like, yeah, I'm right there with you. It stinks. Don't do it.
That's that's all it takes for you to relate.
Yeah, it's like a little slice of life.
character.
But it's a little slice of life thing. Like, if I'm in a car with a smoker, I will make them get out of the car to smoke. Like,
Oh, all right.
no, that's not that weird.
Where you also like, oh man, like she's wearing clothes. I wear clothes too. I really get this person.
That was a valid point, Tim. You're way off
I
base
feel like
here.
I feel like that's a very common thing. That I feel like it's weird to form a bond over just that.
I didn't say a bond. I said I related to her.
And I think your exact quote was, "If I could compare myself to any cinematic character."
This is what happens when Tim doesn't like a good movie. He spits this at me throughout the review. Tim, we need to wrap up. What's
okay.
what's your rating of The Monster?
I'm still gonna give it a pretty good score, just because, again, I like all the monster parts, and and the stuff that I didn't like was still well done. Just not so much for me, but I will give it a very respectable 6 out of 10.
Okay. I'm obviously going higher than that. I am going to give it a solid 8 out of 10.
8.
Said
I
it
know
first.
you. I know you.
This is getting annoying, Tim. You can't just commit to the review predicting everything I'm going to say. This is getting out of hand. And then making fun of me when I make a valid point.
Just wait till you drop that cheese sandwich tomorrow.
What?
I'm making a prediction right now. So when you drop a cheese sandwich tomorrow, you're gonna be like, "Wow, he nailed it."
Well, then I'm just not going to have a sandwich tomorrow. I'm going to have all non-sandwich food.
We'll see about that.
We'll see. We'll see. This has been. I don't even know what to call this episode of Screams After Midnight. Tim is probably an alcoholic himself. I'm starting to believe it.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's got a bottle of Jack Daniels just under the camera there. He's been swigging away right before we start. Look, that was one there. Huh? Yeah.
I was gonna grab my flask, but it's on the table over there. So, Legend
Anyway.
of Zelda flask.
Such a nerd. Anyway, guys, that's the end of this week's review. Thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you think of the monster in the comments below. Reiterate that I'm right and that Tim's wrong in the comments.
Make sure to let me know how you think Pete is a monster.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I think on this show I am clearly the monster of the two. I make no illusions of that.
I'm not. I mean, for all I know, you might just be a weird physical manifestation of my innermost demons.
Maybe. Maybe. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Remember that me and Tim do an episode of Tales from the Crypt every weekend. We are working our way through that and watching it, so you can find that on the channel and all the other stuff we do here. So thanks very much for watching, guys. We will see you next